Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Grace Holland. A Durham woman went viral earlier this month for her way of connecting the church and the LGBTQ community through music. You may have seen that TikTok of Chappell Roan's Hot to Go playing over church bells in downtown Durham earlier this month. The bell ringer, Katelyn MacDonald, has since been flooded with messages from LGBTQ people all over the world telling her what that meant to them. I caught up with Katelyn to reflect on what this month has meant to her, and I'm sharing that conversation as Pride Month comes to an end. So this all started the same way it did for many of you that probably saw this video. I got on TikTok on June 1st, so the morning that she posted this, and saw pretty soon after I opened the app this video of Hot to Go by Chappell Roan being played on the chapel bells. Now, I'm not going to put a section of that song in here because music rights are very strict and we want to be respectful of copyright, but what you need to know is that the melody is like H-O-T-T-O-G-O. You get the gist. And I had heard the song, so I recognized the melody. And what I immediately saw next was that the location on it was Durham. So anytime as a journalist that I see something local going on, it piques my interest. And I went to the comments and saw it had thousands of comments, thousands of likes. So I was like, wow, this is really getting a lot of attention. And in fact, a friend of mine from Atlanta, within like an hour or so of me seeing it, also sent me the TikTok. So I knew that this was getting a lot of reach. Then later I was on the app again, and, the good old algorithm then brought me Katelyn's videos. One was her inside playing the bells. And once I saw sort of the way that those bells work, you think that it's, ringing a bell, different, maybe like chimes or something like that is what I was picturing. It's not like that. They're these huge levers that you really have to pull down. And it was just really cool to see her doing all of it's a lot of movement. It's like a workout. And then another video popped up later of Katelyn basically saying, thank you guys so much for all this attention. It's really meant a lot to me. And just talking about the response she had gotten from LGBTQ people. So I was just interested to kind of get to know her mindset and what led her to this point. So I found her Instagram and I reached out to her there. I said, hey, when can we meet up? Can we come to the church? Can we see the bells? And she was like, yeah, like, come on. So we set up a day, and WRAL photojournalist Sean Braswell and I went over there. This was at the Duke United Methodist Church in downtown Durham. That is where Katelyn is a member of that church, and she has been a volunteer bell ringer there for the church. And we sat down in the sanctuary. It's a very beautiful, I think she said late 1800s, early 1900s sanctuary. And we just, before we went up the tower, we just sat there and chatted for a little bit. Let's talk about the video, the viral video of it all. So how did you come up with that idea? Describe the video to me, just what was going on there?
I did this viral video, but I really just went in on Saturday, June 1st at like 9:30 in the morning before a choir rehearsal that day, and had already decided that week that I was going to celebrate Pride. I mean, this is a very queer and affirming church. We have a lot of LGBTQ people in the pews, in leadership, just kind of regularly in the fabric of the church. And so it felt really normal to celebrate that on the first day of Pride Month. So Hot to Go, that I played on the bells that day and several times since, just seemed like an appropriate pick because Chappell Roan is a really openly queer artist. She is very proud of her queerness and not shy about demonstrating that on stage as a performer, as a singer, as a musician, as a lyricist. Her songs are very focused on that experience, which is not something you usually hear at a church. But her songs are also really catchy. So I just thought it would be fun for myself to play as okay, I've played a lot of hymns. What else can we play? We do play secular stuff here when the occasion calls for it. And I just thought it would be fun for me to play. I thought it would be fun for the city to hear. And then it became fun for the internet to hear as well.
And okay, so the video from outside the church, did someone like record that for you, or was that just like somebody walking by, or?
So it's somebody who lives in the building who recorded it. I went to this rehearsal, and then by the end of it, I had friends texting me in a group text like, Katelyn, is this you? Is this TikTok you? They're like, it has to be her. There can't be anybody else in the country who's playing Chappell Roan. But it wasn't something we organized. I didn't know them. I've talked to them since, but she just recorded it because she thought she's like, is that what I think it is?
Was the choice of Chappell Roan because like also a little bit because chapel and chapel? Like Chappell Roan, chapel bells, or no?
I would love to say that chapel pun was intentional, but it was something that very much took off after doing that.
So Katelyn grew up in Kentucky, and she has a music background, hence why she volunteers to do the bell ringing. And she ended up in Durham because she went to divinity school at Duke. And she actually works for the Duke University Chapel as her day job. And again, this bell ringing is sort of a volunteer thing that she does as a member of the church. You know, Katelyn, I think it's fair to say, is deeply religious. You know, she went to divinity school. She works full-time at Duke University's chapel, and then, you know, is very active at Duke UMC as well. Katelyn also came out as transgender at the end of 2021.
And what role do you think that your faith played in that?
My faith plays maybe the most pivotal role in me coming out. I think for trans people specifically, the narratives in just the media broadly are really focused on medical transitions, on physical transitions, on social transitions. You know, the fear mongers in society are really worried about like genitals in a way that is just not concerning to trans people who just want to live their lives in a way that is most comfortable to them. And I think for me, the part of transition that has been the most important is this spiritual transition, and understanding that, okay, if I've wrestled with this kind of trans part of my identity for 18 years, even though I didn't know I was wrestling with it as such, you know, if I don't view this trans identity as something sinful or bad, and instead part of this image of God placed within me by a creator who reflects that identity themselves, then it becomes a much more beautiful moment and, you know, garden of possibilities, I think.
So I think it's fair to say that there is a perception that religion, Christianity in the United States is not broadly accepting of LGBTQ people. And what's really interesting about Katelyn to me is that she's had this very different experience where she's been in the church, you know, pretty much throughout, prior to her transition, during her transition, and now after her transition. But she's obviously very aware that other people have not had that same experience as her.
I think it is so striking that you look at the comments on all of these videos that I've posted and see overwhelmingly messages of support saying like, this is wonderful, this is beautiful, but also just those messages that people say, this really touched me. I mean, we had people who have come to Duke Memorial in person because of this, and moving from I feel something to I'm going to respond to something is a hard choice to make, and I've done that. And I know how difficult that is just walking in these specific doors as a queer person for the first time. And I think there are churches all over the Triangle who are ready to be those supportive spaces, many of whom are already those spaces. And I think that, again, the opportunity and the challenge for the church is how do we communicate that we are safe places, that we are affirming places, that we are places already filled with queer people, to those people who are really hesitant to take a step inside our doors.
She's since made other videos. She was telling me when we were talking She had just posted a video playing Maren Morris's My Church because Maren Morris had just come out as bisexual earlier this month. So she's been playing a lot of different songs and trying to brainstorm different things to post on social media, but also things that she thinks would be fun for the city of Durham to hear. And, you know, another part of sort of the 15 minutes here from the hot to go stuff was Chappell Roan's team actually gave her tickets to go see Chappell Roan when she played in Raleigh a few weeks ago. She just said it was an amazing time, really, really enjoyed it. But again, there's this bigger message that she's taking away from all of this that isn't about her. And she said that to me. She said, I don't feel like this is a story about me.
I mean, we're in a church, so like I feel like this is a story about what God is doing in the world, and you know, what happens between me playing these bells and people hearing it and receiving it. Because I don't think this is something that I could have just done on my own. To hear that thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people felt really deeply touched by this is really, I don't take that lightly.
So she'll be up in the bell tower. Now, you can see my trip up the bell tower on Friday. That'll air on WRAL News, and we'll also be showing that story throughout the weekend on WRAL News Plus. Thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. Another great way to get WRAL News is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email that's waiting in your inbox every morning with local news, events, and headlines to get you ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.